And then at that moment, I received a message. I always pray alone. And I felt the sense and I received the insight, pray with others. Because it was a matter of raising the vibrational frequency. And the insight I got from the being so light was pray with others, and we will operate through the surgeons, through his hands. Like Francisco mentioned, divine intervention. We're not alone. We're not alone. And when we raise the vibrational frequency, we can connect with those higher vibrations, because there is a universal law called the law of resonance. The higher we vibrate, the higher we're going to meet the energies that are vibrating at that level.
Just imagine what that meant to me. Well, everybody was praying. So sometimes the denial or the not being answered of that prayer 15 days before had a reason. There was a lot of people praying for me. And let me tell you what the result was. The first surgery I had to be there for 2 months. This time, 5 days after my surgery, I was released. So tell me if there is no power in prayer. So all of this is for me a way of showing you or of telling you how sometimes not being answered the moment we think or the way we think, there's because we're being protected. And now everybody got together and the result was absolutely amazing. 5 days later, I was out of the hospital.
As a matter of fact, for those who are listening to this episode and are wondering, well, then praying is a waste of time. If nothing is going to happen and it happened at will, what am I doing spending my time praying? Well, listen to Ingrid's story, because her prayers were not what she wanted, but what she needed to experience. Through the years, I realized that the importance of praying, more like having this conversation with myself to get more clarity. Because once I began to become a channeler, that's when I understood that there is uh, a divine intervention and a divine source that will help you uh, only if you ask. I ask and I get answers. Not necessarily the answers that I want to get, but I get the answers. Hi, welcome back to a new episode of In Dying I Begin to Live. Today's episode is about the power of prayer. I'm your host, Francisco Valentin.
Hello, Ana Cecilia Gonzalez.
And here, Ingrid Honkola.
Welcome. This subject is one that is kind of controversial based on culture and religion. So I decided to do some digging because people seek to communicate with spirits, angels, deities, like, for example, God, Allah, Yahweh, and so on, to ask for help, to give thanks, and to ask for a sense of direction. And in my digging, I did the basic question: where does praying come from? Because in my case, I was born Catholic, and I thought that praying was all about Christianity and being Catholic. And I was wrong, because I found out that it came from Mesopotamia, ancient Egypt, Hinduism, indigenous cultures, and Hebrew traditions. And I said, "Wow, that's amazing! I didn't think about that." So then I asked, "How does people pray?" This most of us already know. There's some worshiping, chanting, offerings, and the art of silencing. So finally, I asked, how should one pray? And this is what I got. Uh, it's internalization of the intention to have compassion, wisdom, patience, detachment, and for the welfare of every living being. So it's basically it is a tool to transform the mind and cultivate the spiritual state of being. Having said that, let me hear from Ana Cecilia to see what she had to say from uh, her own digging about the subject or her
Yes.
personal findings. Go ahead, Ana.
Thank you, Francisco. Yes, I think this is an amazing topic. Just like you said, it's an amazing tool that sometimes we don't even know how deep and how far we can get through it. But first of all, I'd like to, because for me this was something that I've always struggled since I was a little girl. What is the difference between praying and reciting? Because reciting is something that we are taught, like there are specific prayers that are already pre-established, like prayers that you were given when you were probably a kid, and just say your prayers. So that is sort of repeating thing. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just repeating a prayer that has already been established. Sometimes it could be like a mantra, like something that is so sacred, that is so special, that we just repeat it. So for me, the art of prayer, it's connecting with what we consider divine or sacred. And for me, the difference between reciting and praying is that praying is free. It's completely connecting to what you consider sacred, to what you consider divine. And this connection is it's what's precisely going to make the difference between your communication with the sacred world, with whatever you consider sacred. It could be the universe, God, love, anything that you consider a connection with something that's going to bring you good. So the difference for me was important because yes, saying a prayer is like a reciting one is what we've been taught, and it's very beautiful. It could be, doesn't matter if you're Jewish, Buddhist, Islam, Christian, Catholic, doesn't really matter. We all have our own specific prayers that we recite. But doing a personal prayer is something what Francisco was mentioning, is connecting in our own way with the sacred world. So this is something that for me has been so powerful. So I'm going to continue with this, but I would like now for Ingrid to tell us her introduction about the power of prayer. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Anna, and thank you, Francisco. This is a very powerful and important topic. Many people ask about this. They continue to ask us, how do I pray? Because, and this is the thing with a lot of the questions, is like, why my prayers are not being listened, because that's something really common. And other people that also say, oh yeah, my prayer was listened. So is to me the same way as Anna and Francisco just mentioned it, in my own experience. And the first sense for me is that prayer is not something I repeat in the head. You know, when we use a system of repetition, I have discovered that this is, in reality, this is used to help the mind focus, to help the mind kind of like be more steady. So through repetition, we try to kind of steady the mind. So that's more like sometimes more a method of gaining concentration. To me, the real meaning of praying is, like Anna and Francisco mentioned, is to connect. is to connect deeply from the heart with the sacred, with the divine, with God. So for me, prayer is a very intimate and a very personal relationship with my father, with my mother in heaven, with the divine, with the universe, with however we call it, with the source of all, with that inner and universal guidance. Is that moment where you know, like if you go and you visit your mother, your father, a very good friend, even when you're sitting with your loving pet, you're not there making demands, but you're not there asking for things you want, asking. No, you have a conversation. You have, and that conversation is loving, is warm, is joyful. That's that type of conversation you're going to have from the heart. So for me, that's what prayer is. And when you are in that really beautiful, intimate, personal conversation, you're also open to listen. So that's when people talk about prayer and meditation. And I love when people say prayer is that moment of dialogue, that moment of connection, that moment of sharing. And meditation is that moment of listening, is the moment in which I pause and I open myself to be receptive, to listen, and to connect with that intuition and with the inner voice. So that's what prayer is to me. I don't go there asking. I go there in that sense of communion, that sense of it's so joyful to share this moment with that loving energy, that loving, let's call it being divine that I want to share with. Again, same thing that you would do if you meet with someone you love very much. How can I share this sacred moment from the heart? So that's what prayer is for me, is to share a moment with God.
Yes,
Beautiful.
indeed. That's very important for everyone to understand. It is about the intention, uh,
Mhm.
not necessarily words, because of course we all have different language. My primary language is Spanish, so I could pray in English or Spanish or in any other language, and it is uh, they're not the words but the intent. But then let me give you an example that I love as an example because it puts you in a different perspective. And I take the case of two contestants. Those two contestants are they're waiting for the final judge to claim the winner, and you can see both of them, each one separately, closing their eyes, and you know that they're praying because they are so emphatic, trying to get that connection with that divine for them to be the winner. And then the winner is, and what happened to the other? So it's not, praying is not that God is going to give to some and take away to others. That's not praying. Praying is the intent to do good, to be better, to help others in the thought that comes from the intent, and that thought, that intention, you send it out, and it's gonna be listened. Just as when you are with someone, I mean, there's a phrase that says, as above so below. As here on earth we have a lot of people that we can ask for advice, and they give us advice and they listen, uh, and there are others that we give advice and we don't hear what we should listen to. And that's what happens. For example, let me give you an example that I can relate personally with. uh, those who know me know that after my car accident and after my death experience and so forth, eventually I lost one kidney, and that kidney had to be removed uh, because of a particle that got in, and it became a, a, a benign tumor. But then mutation over mutation became a cancer, and I began to pray very hard because I was committed at that moment to let my faith be the one who leads me, and I wanted to be like those other people that I've seen that they put the intention so hard that they get and receive a miracle, and that miracle didn't come to me. I lost my kidney. I had to go through the procedure. Now, will I say that my prayers were not listened? No, because I had to go through that process. Not because we pray we're going to receive what we want, because it's not a matter of giving to some or taking away uh, to the other. And there, then it comes frustration. And the frustration is because we do not understand the process. But let me give you Ana Cecilia to expand on that subject because she has good stories to tell about that.
Yes, thank you, Francisco. Yes, this is very interesting because just as you're saying, the fact that the silence of the prayer, the fact that I don't get the answer I'm expecting, it doesn't mean that I'm not being listened or they're being indifferent with me. It's really protecting me sometimes from something I don't even understand in that moment. So the power of praying is precisely that. There's so much power in what can receive if you really trust that with the intention, like Francisco said, you are really asking for the best for that, for your being. So we don't always know what's best for us, but the divine does. So if we're really opening our hearts to the without expectations of exactly what I want as an answer, I will understand that it's not that I'm being ignored. It's just that sometimes it's protecting me from a path I don't even know. And I believe that it's nothing wrong with different kinds of prayers. There's a prayer of gratitude, of petition, of surrender, intercession, praising, or just listening, like Ingrid said. But one of the ones that I've always considered that have made a very big difference in my life is a prayer of gratitude. Just the fact of being grateful to be alive. And when you're going, since you're a little girl, through because of my physical condition, where the first thing you hear when you are 7 or 8 is that you're gonna die. Each day means a lot. So the fact that you wake up just being grateful for being alive, that was the biggest prayer I've ever had in my life. So being grateful, being having gratitude for the fact of being alive, for the fact of having a family, of having a way to being taken care by doctors. It's an amazing thing. And one of the stories I want to tell you that is probably what Francisco was saying is what happens if you don't receive exactly what you're expecting? And one day it was my second open heart surgery where I was going into surgery in one hospital. They did all this catheterization and they found out that it was so extremely complex, they were not going to be able to do the surgery in that hospital. So just imagine the fear of my parents, the uneasiness everybody was going through, because everybody was praying for it to go smoothly the next day. And no, they said stop. So what happened here is that it was delayed. 15 days later is when they were able to do the surgery. But do you know what happened during that day? A lot of it said, the Bible says, where two or more are together asking for the same thing, there's power. So in those 15 days, a lot of different groups got together. A lot of people got to know that I was going to have a very, very complex surgery that they thought it was going to last 8 hours, and it lasted 11 hours. But by then, many groups were praying. So one of the biggest things is that the day of my surgery in my office, my boss said, I don't know whatever you guys believe, but there's a chapel down there, and I would like that as long as this all of this day work lasts, I want us to go by pairs and go into the chapel and each one pray, and you have permission to go each 30 minutes, and then you're gonna come back. Just imagine what that meant to me. Well, everybody was praying. So sometimes the denial or the not being answered of that prayer 15 days before had a reason. There was a lot of people praying for me. And let me tell you what the result was. The first surgery I had to be there for 2 months. This time, 5 days after my surgery, I was released. So tell me if there is no power in prayer. So all of this is for me a way of showing you or of telling you how sometimes not being answered the moment we think or the way we think, there's because we're being protected. And now everybody got together, and the result was absolutely amazing. 5 days later, I was out of the hospital. So, what do you think about this, Ingrid? For me, this is getting together and having answers. That's the big result of the power of prayer.
That's an incredible message, an incredible story, Anna. Like how I feel that at the end is all about love, is all about
Oh,
vibration,
yes.
it's all about energy, getting together with the heart. The power of intention, like Francisco says, it carries so much power. So why
Yes.
the word power
I like
is
that. Elevating our vibration. That's what we're doing.
yes,
Ingrid.
yes, yes, yes. And you know, is beautiful because you're mentioning gratitude, you're mentioning Francisco is mentioning all the different, you and Francisco, the ways we pray. And in all of these I also heard the word, because sometimes, like you both mentioned, there's things that we pray for but they're not given to us the way we want them, because
Yes.
in many cases is not what we want but what is best for our growth and our evolution. So many times I think I have mentioned before that in my prayers, I and especially when we mentioned the dark night of the soul in another episode, but is when I went so deep, and for the first time I pray for understanding. It was, I felt the sense, I was blinded. I said, please God, I wasn't praying for things around me to be changed, for the world to be different. It was a prayer to deepening, to open my eyes to clarity. I would just say, God, please help me see, help me understand what all this is for. And as we mentioned it many times before, is having the realization that nothing happened to me, it happened for me. So if I go to the place where I can discover what is this for, how can I have the clarity, then all my challenges become opportunities for growth, for evolution. This is another thing. Prayer is also about trust, is faith. Faith is trust, is filling my heart with the absolute and complete sense that it is already given. Like when I am asking, when I'm conversing with God, with the divine, I feel it in my heart already, as it already happened. It's not something we just hold in the head. That's why Francisco and Anna repeatedly talk about connection, about intention, about communion, is how from my very heart I already feel that whatever I am asking, even if it's understanding, even if it's clarity, even if it's a desire to do good, even if I'm praying for the wealth, the health, the joy of others or myself, I do it from the place of knowing that it is for the good, that it is for, like I was mentioning before, for not just for my own growth and evolution, but for the growth and evolution of the people around me. And then in that prayer, I go from the heart and I feel it like it is already done. That's the trust I am feeling that God, that the universe is going to grant that, let's call it, possibility of opening, of change, of understanding to me and the people around. You know, that's always is being said, ask and it will be given. But people say, I ask and nothing is given to me, again because we're going from the head, from repeating things. And you know, in reality now we have to talk in terms of manifestation in these cases, because at the end we're not manifesting what we want, we're manifesting what we are. So if in my head I'm just repeating words, but deep inside I'm saying this is really not going to be for me, I don't deserve it, and we don't feel abundant, then it's like having a train with two heads. One is trying to go this direction, one is trying to go to the other one, and at the end, we're not going anywhere. So we cannot leave this just to a bunch of words in the head. It has to be felt sense. Francisco mentioned a lot the word intention. It has to be that pure, deep intention that come from the heart, the intention to do good, the intention to see others and myself surrounded by, again, clarity, understanding, light. What is the best? What is the best for me and for all of us? That is when prayer is being listened. I don't know what you think about this, Francisco.
Yes. No, actually, I agree 100% with you because I am a recipient of that in many ways. Uh, just to give you an example, my wife, she's extremely positive, sometimes a little bit too much for me. Uh, but one thing she's always says, and is that she asks for this or something better. And she
Mm.
have repeated that so many times that I already have it in my head. And it's very important to know that little detail. It's not what you want, is what you need. And I think we all have said that many times before. Now, Ingrid mentioned something about the dark night of the soul. Uh, and I did went through that. Sometimes I say it's sad, but actually it was a blessing in disguise. Because when I was going through the dark night of the soul, uh, you have no idea how many times I just went down on my knees and cried, tears pouring through my eyes, begging for this, what I was going through, to end, and finally to be able to be released from that, what had me changed mentally, because remember, everything is in the mind. And and although I wanted to get rid of that, that's something that I remember very clearly. One medium told me, and when that medium told me that this was too much for me, that I could not do it on myself, that I needed help, That's when I really, really got strong in my praying. I mean, like I said, I was on the floor many, many times. I couldn't take it anymore, and I started praying to get help, to be able to get rid of this on my own. And at first, I thought that my prayers were in vain, but somehow I managed to get it out of my system on my own. So it's not necessarily that it happened whenever you want that to happen, but in due time. And it happened. It came to pass. I overcame it on my own without anybody's help. So I can attest to that fact uh, as an inalienable fact. Uh, Now, let me go back to the praying. And as Ingrid mentioned, it's not about the words. And as I've said many times, it's about the intent. Just to give you an example, when I go to bed at night, this is something that I do on my own. So I give thanks for today. I give thanks for my dreams, because in your dreams, while the body rests, the soul keeps experiencing life. For the forthcoming day, and finally, for world peace. Now, this last one, world peace, that was something that I kept saying in my mind every time that I go to sleep, but I didn't feel it. I just wanted world peace, but honestly, I just said it but did not feel it. But because I started doing that prayer every single day or every single night before going to bed, I finally caught up with my words. And now, today, every time I ask for a word peace, I feel it. And that feeling, I make it emanate from me. Same as when I ask for and I do my small prayer for food, I feel it and I can visualize the food going into my system and giving me energy and health. So, like Anna Cecilia at the beginning mentioned, is it's not the words, it is the intent. So, Anna Cecilia, what do you have to say now?
Mhm.
I agree totally with you, Francisco. I think we've all gone through those moments where we say, really, I mean, I repeat and repeat, and when is it ever gonna happen? And you know what? I've got to a point that when I pray for something I think I need, or I think I deserve, or I think is best for my family or for the world, and if that life doesn't give me what I'm asking for, I no longer see it as silence. I see it as protection, as a higher form of love. And it's reminding me that everything, and this is something I really love because my daughter always talks about this, there's a hidden blessing behind. And this is where Ingrid's word comes so strong in my heart. And it's trust. Just you need to trust that you're protecting the result with your prayer. Look at it that way. So is it worth it even though you're not getting what you feel? Of course it is. And let me give you an example that really touched my heart. When I'm sure many of you have seen this picture where there's this big stone falling, and it's like if God had told this man, you just need to push it, and in the man's mind, well, I need to push it till I move it all the way to the top, and that's what's his mind. But he was being obedient. Let's look at the pushing as a prayer. So this man kept pushing and pushing for one day, one week, months, and a year. And he was pushing and nothing moved. It seems like nothing had happened. And then some more time passed till he said, you know, God, I think this is enough. I've been doing this thinking that this is the best. And I have not stopped, not one single day, pushing this stone. And it doesn't move not even an inch. And then God's answer, and this like life's answer, the universe answer, because this is going to happen. Whenever you less imagine, you're going to understand the meaning of the no answer. And then God said, well, and who told you I wanted you to move the stone? Look at your arms. Look at the strength in your muscles. Look at how different you're now. Now you are ready for the real intention of this. So I'm just preparing you for a much bigger blessing, not just to move the stone. So sometimes our prayers seem to be like for a result. And let me tell you something, whenever you don't, you're persistent, like Francisco was saying, he's continuously asking and you don't stop praying and connecting. And it's not like, please give me the house I need, please give me the house I know. It's much more than that. Give me what is best for me. Give me exactly what I need. And you know why? Because every one of us come with a purpose. Let me fulfill my purpose and give me anything I need to fulfill it. And this man was pushing a stone and he thought it was just to move it to the top, but it was for a much, much higher intention and for a higher purpose. So I would suggest that part of your prayer, whatever you go and pray and connect with the sacred, God, give me what I need to fulfill my purpose. And make this be a result of the best that could happen to me, not for me. And this is something I love that Francisco and Ingrid mentioned. What is the best for me? And in that way, we are protecting the outcome. So whenever life doesn't give you exactly what you thought you were praying for, look at it as protection, as direction. If one door closes, guess what? There's other doors. You just need to maybe knock and open it. But there's always protection. There is no prayer, no lost prayer in God's hands. I love that. There's nothing is lost whenever you are really praying with connecting to the divine, with the intention of what's best for you and for those around you. And then we will end with this beautiful prayer that Francisco had to make the world be better and peaceful. So we only need one person to be all this be changing, and that's me. When you don't stop doing whatever you are supposed to do, believe me, that stone will move, the world will move, and we all will receive an answer. We can't imagine the power there is behind your prayer, not only for you, but anybody around you. So this is a story I really wanted to share. What do you think about that, Ingrid?
Anna, that's very beautiful because I think that after that, the rest will be added. The rest will
Yes.
come. So say that you're praying for the joy, the be connected with your family. You pray for the meaning of the heart, and the house will present to fulfill that. The job will present to fulfill that. The other things are just what presents in the path for the other things to be fulfilled. Because yeah, if
Yes.
you're surrounded by the food you need, the house you need, whatever you need, then is what is secondary to the real prayer, which is
Yes.
connection, joy, fulfillment. So that's amazing. The things are just gifts that come after. I'm
Right.
thinking that when Francisco was mentioning also at what time we pray. It could be in the morning, it could be at night. That's a question that people also ask: at what time do we pray? And I said, just open your heart and be connected at any time you want. I in my phone, there's actually an app that I have in my phone, and it's this bell that rings every hour. And in this is, and even my husband said, "Oh, your phone, God is calling." And at that very moment, I just do a pause of gratitude, a pause of silence, a pause of, I just breathe deep and I feel connected. Like I said, with the practices, with the meditation, with the prayer, is the practice after the practice, the meditation after the meditation, the prayer after the prayer, is how I remember to remember to be connected. And now this is an incredible experience that I have when praying for clarity. And Anna and Francisco mentioned, we might not see the results right there, we might not have the answer of our prayer right there at the moment, because is when the moment is right. And I had an experience in which I went to look for a job once I graduated as a marine biologist. I worked for a while. I became an expert in mangrove ecosystems. And now I went to look for a job precisely in that field. And it was a place in the coast of Colombia, Santa Marta. And it was a very big project in this coastal lagoon. And I went there feeling that this job is for me. And then I did the interview. I thought that everything went amazingly right. And at the end, I was not called for the job. The job was not offered to me. And what do you think? I felt like, how is this possible? And of course, I had prayed hours and hours for that job to be mine. Like, please, God, this is the job I want. So all those, like Francisco saying, all those hours of like in your knees and going to, this is going to be for me, all these prayers, and the job was not for me. So you get angry and you just feel like, how this is not happen, how I am the person for this job. You can even feel that you get mad at God, you get mad at yourself, you get mad at the people that interview you. And look, years later, I think 10 or 15 years later, I met a colleague. It was a person I didn't see for long time. He was a friend in the field of science. And then I asked we started to talk about that job for some reason. And I said, oh, can you believe I felt that I was the best for the job and the job was not given to me? And then this person said, then you are a very lucky person, because the people and the person that got hired for that job and the whole team he was working with, they went on a field trip. And during the field trip in Colombia, there's always been a lot of problems with rebels, with internal war. They were in this field trip, and the guerrilla uh, was fighting in that area, and they started to shoot and they killed everybody.
Oh my God.
And at that moment, I was in shock. He said, if the job would have been for you, you would be dead or seriously injured, or who knows. And then I thought at that moment, instead of being angry for so many years because the job was not for me, I went into the sense of gratitude. So that's when I realized, of course, I felt so bad for the person that died. But at the same time, I understand why the job was not for me. So, like Francisco and Anna said, sometimes it's because it's not our experience to live. So we just have to be open to clarity.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, Francisco.
Beautiful.
Indeed. As a matter of fact, for those who are listening to this episode and are wondering, well, then praying is a waste of time. If nothing is going to happen and it happened at will, what am I doing spending my time praying? Well, listen to Ingrid's story, because her prayers were not what she wanted, but what she needed to experience, and the experience
Right.
was not to get that job. So she asked for that help to get that job, but that's not necessarily what you need. It's it's like I want to put it this way. I'm not that fond of praying, I'm gonna be honest with you, because of what I was taught from my Catholic background. And from my Catholic background, I understood that I was praying to someone who then I questioned, Is that someone that is going to give and take away at will? So what am I doing praying and so forth? But through the years, I realized that the importance of praying, not necessarily the way Christians see it in my particular case, but more like having this conversation with myself to get more clarity. Because once I began to become a channeler, that's when I understood that there is uh, a divine intervention and a divine source that will help you uh, only if you ask. Because I've seen that many times happening to me, not knowing what was going on. But as a channeler, I ask and I get answers. Not necessarily the answers that I want to get, but I get the answers. Why? Because I learned to be attuned. So praying is going through that or getting into that stage of mind when you increase your vibrational level so you can tap into the divine. And that's something that I learned as a channeler, that and how important there is. Example, and I'm not steering away from the subject of praying to go into channeling, but as a channeler, I have been detached. For example, the times that I have gone on vacations, or I have to make a pause to do some errands that I have to do that maybe it's going to take me 1 or 2 weeks. And afterward, I realized that I got disconnected. And to get connected, I have to make the effort to increase my vibrational level, which good thought, asking for the light, asking for the divine, creating that stage of mind where I can reconnect with those higher beings so the channeling can start happening. I'm not asking you to become a channeler. I'm asking you to increase your vibrational energy for the praying that you do, not because you want this or you want that, but for the well being of yourself, your health, your community, the world. Like I said, world peace, something that I just said it through my mouth, but not really sinking in it until it became part of me. And now when I say it, I visualize how I emanate that intent and I take it out to the astral plane, whatever you want to call it, and it does manifest and it will manifest. So so in my case, what I do is I speak to myself, I speak to the divine. I speak to those spirit of lights. For you, it might be your angels. For you, it might be your God. For you, it might be ascended masters, your deceased father, mother, which can give them company. As a fat, I know that my mother's still here around, and I speak to her, and I feel her deep inside me. So it is a stage of mind. I want you to get that through your head, because you are the builder, you are the mind, you are everything. This is just the body. This is just a something that you sip and sip and go out and go to the spirit world whenever it's time to go. So so this is those are my final words. Speak to yourself, to angels, to the divine, to whoever you feel like talking to. Have that conversation, and you will see your vibration level going up, and up to the point that you will begin to listen and pay attention, not whenever you want, but when you're ready. So, Ana Cecilia.
Great, Francisco. Being said that, I also want to say something just to be wrapping up, which is this beautiful thing of what you were saying, just visualizing what you want, believing it. There's where faith and prayer comes. Then we can create it.
Mhm.
We cannot control everything that happening around us. Well, we definitely have the choice, and that's a choice to the way we are going to react or the way we're going to do it. What happens is instead of getting so angry, we go back to prayer. So we can't control everything that's happening in life. There's no way, but we can choose the way we live it, the way we respond to it. And in my life, in my life experience, I know that my visualization of things around me were very tough, were very difficult. There was no way I could survive medically. There was no surgeries. Everything seemed to be very negative. No way I could grow up. I could get married, have a family. All those, and I couldn't control that. But what I could control was my mind, like Francisca said. What am I visualizing? What am I believing? And I believed. If I had it in my mind, if I could create it in my mind, I believed so strongly. So my prayer, that's why the power is so strong. My prayer was, I don't know how it's going to happen. Maybe it's only in my mind. That's what I thought when I was young. Maybe it's only in the way I see it in my mind, but I was visualizing a beautiful future. I was believing it. And guess what happened? I created it. And I created it not as a powerful woman, but because the power of prayer, the power of gratitude, the power of believing that the best was going to be exactly what was going to happen to me. So I was not like attached to this has to be the way. No, I opened my arms. I opened the result. I was not expecting exactly this way or the other, but I did believe that there was going to be a good outcome for me because I trusted. And I knew that my intention was coming from a good heart. It was coming from a grateful heart. And it was coming from someone that was not looking for a selfish result, but as a result for my family, for my future, for the world, for peace. That has always been my intention. So I can tell you, I'm the result of the power of prayer, of belief, of visualizing, of believing it with a good heart, with a good intention, with a good final purpose, and finally the creation has been beautiful because I've been holding my hand without ever losing it from the divine and knowing that whatever the result is, even with things I cannot control, will be the best for me. Because this word that I love from Ingrid, because I trust. I trust. Well, thank you. These are also my last words. And thank you so much for listening. Ingrid,
Wow, Ana, Francisco, this has been so powerful. These kind of conversations are what we need to be conversing about and sharing with the world. So,
yes, that's
I
right.
love what you just said because, again, is the power that we have within. And that power, when we put it in motion and when we do it together with others, like you mentioned before about people praying together for your health, can do what we call miracles, because at the end is everything a matter of vibration. What I have discovered is that absolutely everything is vibration. And I again pray as it is already done requires that amount of trust. And to trust, we have to feel it as it is already done. And going to now share that power of faith and trust with others. Imagine now you're multiplying that power. And as Anna mentioned before, look in a case of how it can bring healing, because we're praying. It's a selfless moment where I want the good for other. And this happened in my case. I had an experience in which my husband, he was going to have a back surgery, and it was a very complicated surgery. He had been in pain for almost 15 years, and we always were afraid of this surgery because the result could be just be paralyzed. We didn't know what was going to happen, and he went into this surgery. And then there was a little chapel in the hospital. I went to this place and I just sat there and I started to do my prayers just for his good, for his health. And then at that moment I received a message. And I am a very private person in these kind of things. I always pray alone. And I felt the sense and I received the inside pray with others, because it was a matter of raising the vibrational frequency. And the insight I got from the beings of light was pray with others, and we will operate through the surgeons, through his hands. Like Francisco mentioned, divine intervention. We're not alone. We're not alone. And when we raise the vibrational frequency, we can connect with those higher vibrations, because there is a universal law called the law of resonance. The higher we vibrate, the higher we're going to meet the energies that are vibrating at that level. So at that moment I made that call, and I started to call people. Again, I trust that message. And then we prayed together, and a surgery that's supposed to last about an hour, it lasted 2 hours, because the doctor said after that I was so in tune, so dedicated, so in it. The doctor said these things, and then the surgery was a complete success. And now pain is gone and his back is restored. So this is, like we're mentioning to you, is that power of raising our vibrational frequency together. And one last experience, which I think is just incredible, is an experience I have, which might not sound so deep of an experience, but sometimes it's the moment to moment life, things that can happen at the moment. When we elevate the vibration, everything is possible. We with my family, we went to Universal Studios in Orlando, and my husband is retired military, so we get the cheaper tickets. So we arrived to the park with this voucher that we needed to exchange for the actual tickets. And then in our way to the park, we received a phone call. We were having a good time, but we received one of those phone calls that are very, very negative. And this phone call really put us at edge. And what happened? The moment you receive such negative news, you get angry, you get it was even fear for what could happen. There was feelings of all kind of mixed feelings that were not very positive. At that moment our vibrational frequency lowered. Now we're walking in the park and we're discussing about this phone call and the person that was doing these things, blah blah. And then there was 5 people that was they were working exchanging these vouchers by the tickets. And then I look at the 5 people, none of them have any customers, and there was one sitting there that I thought, if we go to that person is going to give us trouble. It's like I felt it, I saw it in his aura. And but my husband was ahead of me, and guess who he picked? The person that was vibrating lower. And then he approached this person, and then now it was also my way to validate if this insight I was getting was truth. Immediately the person saw the vouchers and he said, oh no, in the meeting this morning it was said that we are not going to give tickets to retired people anymore for these vouchers. We're not going to give discounts or no tickets. And then it came the discussion, what? We drove all this way, we bought these tickets, how are you going to say you're not going to exchange? Imagine. Then the guy turned to the other coworkers, and the other coworkers look at him like, we didn't hear about that. That's not true. But this person insisted in which he wasn't going to give us anything. And then he decided to call his boss because he didn't believe anybody else. At that moment, a group of military people arrived, and then they started to exchange their tickets, and my husband connected with them. They started to talk. They were in the background. And then they started to, I don't know, tell some jokes or something, and they started to laugh. And when that is happening, my husband vibration started to go higher. And at that moment, the boss of this person came, and he even told him, this is not true. You can exchange the tickets. And even with that, this person was in disbelief. And then since my husband is laughing there at the background, and I am already feeling the sense of, whatever happened in that phone call, I decided just to experience compassion for that moment. And then I went into prayer, and I went into prayer, and I went into what is best for us, at this moment. And I entered into that peace and calmness in my inner, and I started to feel how my husband laughing, my prayer of whatever is best, and the vibration started to come up. This is the other thing. That person that was being so negative, that didn't want to give us tickets, I could also see external energies feeding from that. I said, I don't want to be part of that. And the more I pray and the more my husband laughed, our frequency went up. And there was a moment in which I just looked at him in the eyes, and it disarmed him. It was a change in vibration. Look what we can do when we vibrate high. We can also exchange that vibration with others. And at that very moment, he looked at me and he said, it don't matter whatever they said this morning. I'm going to give you the tickets. So this is what a moment-to-moment prayer, a moment-to-moment increase in our vibrational frequency, asking for from the heart, can do. So here I leave you also with this deep experience and clarity I had. Is like, learn to vibrate high, ask from the heart, feel as it is already given, and then
Amazing.
miracle is there. Yeah.
Yes.
Amazing, Ingrid. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I hope that everybody learned something new today, because that's our purpose, to give clarity, for everybody to see three different perspectives, three different experiences. And some of you may relate to me, to Anna, to Ingrid, and I hope you get the best out of this, and most importantly, for you to share it with others, because as we're trying to help you, you help others, and we're gonna succeed. um, Also, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
Yes.
TikTok. Yes.
Yes, there
And
we go.
YouTube, of course. YouTube.
Oh, of course, you too. uh, so hope you enjoyed this session, and I'll see you next time.
Yes. Thank you for being here,
Yes. Thank you.
and
Thank you very much.
Thank
see
you.
See you
you
next
next
time.
time.
Bye bye now.
Bye.